Hey, it's Theo and thank you for joining me. And today we're going to be talking about 5 bad habits you might be having and that might just lose you games. Now, we're not talking about bad habits like missing lethal because, yeah, that happens right to everyone. And well, missing lethal in one game doesn't mean you're going to be missing lethal in the next game. No, we're talking about bad habits that can consistently lose you games. And if you can reduce or eliminate these bad habits, you will be winning more games and climbing faster. Now, let's get started with the first bad habit, and that is emotional plays. Now, we all have these bad streaks, right, where we lose a bunch of games in a row. I had it recently, just a streak of games where it feels like there's nothing you can do. You just lose the games. Now, that happens inevitably in a game like Hearthstone. It's a card game, so your draws are going to be playing a big part in whether you win or lose. But also a big part is how you play. And yeah, you don't want to get that affected by tilting, because if you start getting tilted, then you just play whatever, just play cards on board without thinking, just not caring at all about winning or losing. Yeah, you're not going to be winning more with that kind of attitude. So if you feel like you're starting to tilt, starting to get maybe a bit emotional after losing some games, just take a break, because you don't want to be queuing mindlessly. That's also a big mistake, just queuing just to queue because you had a loss and then you just want to get a win to make up for it, and then just trying so hard to get wins that in the end you're actually losing more. So you don't want to do that. You want to be focusing on the game and on trying to win, not just queue because you just want to hit a certain rank. And the last one I have here is that you let the bad RNG affect your gameplay. Because yeah, last game maybe you played like let's say in a quest mage, right? You played the York box and it cast Quasar, and yeah, you threw your entire hand away and you lost because of that. Yeah, that can happen, but it doesn't mean that the next game you're not going to be playing it, because that happened last game. Right, bad RNG last game has no influence on RNG in the current game. So just think about the box. On average, what is it going to do? Is it going to help you win the game, or is it not going to help you win the game? And make the decision on that game. And don't think about that one time the bad RNG happened. Now, of course, you can use your experience from multiple games to think about what happens when you play box, but don't let one bad outcome influence your decision making. Because if you're not playing a card because you had bad RNG the last game, then why are you even playing the card or the deck at all? Now, then let's go to the second point, which is play first, think later. Now, that is often what I see. I've coached people or just see people play on stream. It's just, yeah, just play too fast. They just see a card, 2 manas, they see a 2-drop, they play it, and don't even think about it. No, what you want to do is, yeah, think about your turn. Don't just play, right? Think about your turn. So maybe on turn 2, right, you see the 2-drop. Okay, so you want to play that. Then think after that, is there any better play than that? You can always make that 2-drop on 2 play, right? But maybe, coining a 3-drop is better, or just playing a 1-drop instead might just be better in that situation. Always consider that turn. Don't just autopilot and just play whatever and make the obvious play instead of the right play. Now, the second point, however, is that you don't want to be tunnel visioning again, right? Turn 2, you don't want a tunnel vision on just playing a 2-drop. You don't want a tunnel vision on anything really. Again, every game is different, so you just want to think about what you want to be doing that game. Also, you want to make sure you're paying actually attention to the game, right? Maybe your opponent got like a certain card discovered, they shuffled something, or they have like a death rattle on a minion. You do need to pay attention to what's happening. Now, deck trackers, of course, can help a lot with that, but if you're not paying attention because you're like watching a stream on the second screen and then yeah, you autopilot after that, that is not going to help you win games. So make sure to pay attention, or at least when you come back to the game, make sure to look at what happened and look at maybe something the opponent tried to set up so you can try and counter that. Now, the third bad habit, however, is that people undervalue tempo. And I think one of the biggest mistakes people make here is just not using their mana. Mana is, of course, really limiting what you can do, so we want to make the most use out of it, out of the mana that you have. Now, this can differ per game, because, of course, sometimes it feels like maybe a 3-mana play on turn 4 might be better than a 4-mana play. But generally, you do want to use all your mana whenever you can. Now, you might think undervaluing tempo and not using mana can kind of contradict each other, right? Like a 3-mana play might be more tempo than a 4-mana play. But you're also going to consider the next few turns ahead, because if turn 4 you play a 4-drop, then maybe turn 5 you could play that 3-drop the previous turn plus a 2-drop, instead of having to play the 4-drop on turn 5 and not being able to play the 2-drop at all. So basically, by using all your mana, you get one extra 2-drop on the board, and that's overall more tempo, even though you might have lost a little bit of tempo the turn before because you used all your mana. But in general, yeah, it's best to try and use your mana, but also, yeah, focus on tempo. So it depends on the game. It's not always true that you want to be using all your mana, but you want to try and do it. Now, also a problem I often often see with undervaluing tempo is that people try and go for the perfect combo. Now, of course, there's a lot of different combos in a lot of decks. For example, in a starship deck, right, often you want to try and get all the starship pieces in it, then play Exodar to launch it. But sometimes, yeah, you just want to launch it in the middle of the game because it has a really good effect, right? Maybe it clears the board, gets you the armor you need, or anything like that. And yeah, just don't think about trying to go for that perfect combo where you get like 50 armor off the Exodar. No, try and look at the game, right? What's in front of you? Do you need to launch a starship or not? Don't just think, oh, I need to wait for the perfect starship to launch it, because you might never get to that point, right? You might die before you get to that. And then, yeah, why did you wait and have that starship on board where you never launch it? So always consider every card if you can play it right now or not. Don't just think like, oh, this card is for that combo and I need to save it. Like sometimes that can be the case, but always think about it at the very least and avoid losing games because you tried to go for the perfect combo and you could have won with going for a less than perfect combo. And the last point I have here under undervaluing tempo is that people are often really scared of overdrawing. And no, overdrawing is perfectly fine. Now, you don't want to go out of your way, of course, to try and overdraw. But if you have something like 1 mana draw 4, that means you burn a card. I mean, that's still 1 mana draw 3, right? Like, that's still incredible. Don't be afraid to overdraw. In most matchups, it does not matter at all. Overdrawing only really matters if you get to fatigue. And as we know, most matchups do not go to fatigue, so it really doesn't matter. Like, for example, random Octazari sometimes can be fine because you get like 4 extra cards with it. And yeah, you burn 4 cards, but the 4 cards that you did get might just win you the game right there. And you just have to think of those cards that you burn as being on the bottom of your deck. So yeah, if you didn't burn them, you would have never seen them anyway. So there's no harm in burning them most games. So don't go out of your way to not overdraw cards unless you really need that one card for your combo. The fourth bad habit I have here is not playing to win. Now, of course, the goal of the game is to win games. So it seems pretty obvious, but often I've seen people just playing too safe and losing the games. Like if you are behind on the board, right, or behind in the game, it feels like, you might just have to go for a risky play. For example, in the late game, if you're against like a combo deck and you know they can do 30 damage this turn, yeah, you might want to go to above 30 health, right, to get out of range. But if then the next turn they can deal 40 damage and you can't get above 40, then what's the point of staying alive for one more turn if you're not winning after that, right? You always have to think like, is this play making me more likely to win? Like staying alive, yeah, you need that to win, but if eventually, even if you stay 10 turns alive and you never win after that, then that is not a good play to make, right? What you want to be doing is seeing how do you win, how do you get to that win, and it might just be that yeah, you have to make a risky play, like go for this cover that might just get you lethal, and if you don't get it, yeah, you might lose. But if you go for the safe play, so to speak, and that lets you live, but then you kind of never win after that, then yeah, that is just not the correct play. So don't just try and think about, oh, I need to try and stay alive this turn. Maybe look at the game and think, is this play more likely to win me the game than playing it safe? And that brings me to the next point, is not adapting, right? Like you need to adapt to the game that is in front of you. Don't just think, oh, this is how usually the game goes, so that's how I have to play it every time. Look at the game, look at what's happening. Think about, is this the best play in this situation? Don't think, is this the best play usually? For example, right, we see a lot of Starship Death Knights, and if you're playing a control deck against it, you know they're gonna have Kill Jaden, right? So that means that inevitably they'll win with Kill Jaden with all these stats. So that means often that, yeah, you need to win before that, right? So you do want to kind of kill them before they get to that scaling Kill Jaden, or at least before a bunch of demons. So you know that, yeah, just clearing boards over and over against Kill Jaden, yeah, that's just not going to win the game, right? Because the deck never ends. So that is not the plan that wins eventually. So your plan then kind of is, right, to try and set up a lethal somehow. Probably takes a bunch of turns, but you want to try and set up a way to win the game. But for example, if you suddenly red or like ham their Kill Jaden, and the Kill Jaden is gone, you actually have to adapt. So then all you have to do is survive if that happens, if the Kill Jaden is gone. No longer do you have to try and set up lethals and stuff. So you just have to change your game plan along the way. No longer you need to maybe take risks again to try and get to that level. No, all you have to do is just stay alive and you win the game without that kill Jaden. And what I kind of touched on earlier is playing the past. If a play worked the last game, right, that doesn't mean it's going to work at this game. If a certain game plan worked last time, again, that doesn't mean it's going to be working this game. So always think about this game, what is happening during this game, and what will win this game, because every game is different. And the last bad habit to have is misusing stats. Now, one problem I often see is that people are overreacting to losses, or like a few losses in a row, right? And I don't mean by tilting like we had earlier, but like in terms of changing decks, right? You might have just lost twice, let's say a quest mage, right? Even though there's not that many quest mages on ladder, but you might have just lost to 2 in a row. You think like, oh, there's a lot of quest mages, I need to counter this deck, so I'm gonna add a Viper or 2 to the deck to counter that weapon. And then in the next 10 games, you see no mages and the Vipers are completely useless. So don't just be like, oh, I just lost twice to that deck. It's ever going to be every matchup today. No, just look at like the meta stats. Right, see how often the deck is being played, and generally, yeah, it's just not worth running those tech cards. And the fact that you faced a deck multiple times doesn't mean you're going to be facing it again multiple times in the future. Also, another point here is that you don't want to be copying decks blindly. Now, often you see on YouTube, right, here on YouTube, a lot of titles like, oh, 90-80% win rate. Yeah, those are not realistic win rates. Those decks do not have that win rate. That's just a small sample size, because at some point you're going to have good streaks, bad streaks, right? But yeah, you never see those bad streaks on YouTube as a video, right? You only see the good streaks. So don't just think, oh, a streamer or a YouTuber had the 80% win rate with this deck over 10 games. This deck is amazing. No, just look at the stats on deck websites, right? Those have large sample sizes. And when you see a deck over 1,000 games is like a 40% win rate, it's probably not a good deck, even though somebody went 8-2 with it. Also, you don't want to be copying decks from tournaments. I've seen that before, just people copying decks from like tournament winners, because hey, they won the tournament with the deck, right? It's gotta be good. No, a tournament meta is very different, because you often get to ban one deck, and yeah, you can't do that on ladder. So in a tournament, the deck might be a lot better because it just has one weak matchup, and you can eliminate that in the tournament, but yeah, you can't do that on ladder. So yeah, don't just copy tournament decks, just copy again from the deck websites, or from like best decks videos I have on my channel. Just, yeah, I would not copy tournament decks. Those are not decks that are really made for a ladder. And the last point to have here is trusting past results. Now, last week you might have had a deck where you went like a 9-1 with it, right? And did really well. And this week you think, oh, I went 9-1, right? Let's play it again because it did so well. But maybe there was a patch in between, right? And the meta changed for the worse for the deck. And besides it, again, right, going 9-1, yeah, that's just not realistic. You can't expect the deck to go consistently 9-1. So yeah, don't just look at what happened previous weeks with certain decks, or like last month the deck was successful. It just doesn't mean it's going to be successful now. Just look at the meta reports, right? Look at what's good right now and make your decision based on that, and not what happened in the past. And those are all the bad habits, and hopefully I helped you recognize some of them. Also, if you have more tips for other players, make sure to post them in the comments. If the video was helpful, make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and until next time.